Hi guys. Thanks for your understanding about missing Monday's class. I had a fever. Came down with a fever late Saturday night, and it took me a while to shake it, but I'm back to good health. So, as promised, I said I'd record a video to upload to YouTube to share how to work with our data set that we would have worked with on Monday's lecture. The data set is in the Dropbox that you can find a link to in the syllabus, and it's called Full Funnel Campaign. It's a full funnel display advertising campaign data from an ad exchange. Everything's obfuscated, but more or less we're going to continue to build off the previous week's workshop and go into building something a little bit more complicated. All right, so I've got the data loaded here in the Excel file into Tableau, and we're going to go ahead and ingest this into Tableau right now. All right, so we've got our data ingested in Tableau. This should be a familiar view. We've got Tableau's detected our data types, broke them into dimensions and measures. Let's just do a quick spot check to make sure everything came through. So accounts, that's a dimension, yes, that's reading correctly as denoted by the ABC icon. Campaigns will be a dimension. Campaign types, conversion event, and conversion customer will all be dimensions, so that checks out. So in last week's class, we had a geodata type at the zip code level. Here we're working with state and country level data. So just to drill into this, Tableau has created a hierarchy for us, showing country at the highest level of aggregation and state at the lowest level of aggregation. So if you bring in country, I think there's only one country, United States, within this data set. But it is time-stamped, or it is stamped on an ad exchange, regardless if it's multiple countries or not. And then we've got a state-level view here. Okay. All right, moving on, we've got conversion date. So conversion date denotes that it should be a date, but Tableau is reading it as a string. We're going to go ahead and convert this now. And we're going to convert this to a date. Okay, that should work. Let's double check. Yep, so we have a null value in here. That's okay. Conversion type, this should be a string. That's correct. Creative name will be a string. Device will be a string. Flight name, that checks out. Line item ID, that's what LI stands for, so line item ID. Line items on any type of broad-based advertising campaign are a unique identifier for a specific line item within the campaign. So campaigns, you can have multiple campaigns, and within each campaign you can have something called a flight. That's what this is. So you might have a campaign that's focused on targeting the Southwest of the United States only, and you'll use multiple tactics within that campaign. Flights are like, think of them as micro campaigns that comprise a broader campaign. So flights can have different tactics that they use, so like mobile versus desktop, gender specific targeting tactics, or look different demographic composition profiles that you want to target. So flights, just think of them as constituents of a broader campaign. And line item just maps back to the flight. So this should be a unique identifier, which is good. This is being read as a string. Order ID is another unique identifier. That's a string. So everything here more or less checks out. Conversion DMA. This is going back to our previous workshop. DMAs are designated market areas. Just as a recap, with terrestrial radio and local TV, you've got broadcast regions that overlap across multiple zip codes. So DMAs were created to show the broadcast reach of terrestrial radio and TV. So this needs to be a string. It's a random string of numbers, but we're not going to be doing any calculations on these. So we're going to convert this, change this data type first to a string, and then we're going to convert to a dimension by clicking here. Okay, conversion time hours. So this is basically gonna, from the first impression until the conversion, this field here is going to be a running counter of how long it takes to drive a conversion. This is a measure, so that's good. Creative, this is we're gonna want to convert this over into a dimension, but first we're gonna change the data type to a string. And let's do, where did it go? Creative. I'm going to search by using a magnifying. Here we go. Oh, it was down. Yeah, okay. Convert to a dimension, and we're good. Sales is a dollar value. Viewability. Viewability is defined. So the actual industry definition of viewability is at least 50% of the pixels on an ad have fired for at least 1 second or longer. It's a measure of, it's a proxy for did someone see something or not. So if you're on a web browser and you load a quarter of an ad while you're scrolling, that's down beneath the content that you're trying to access, that won't be that won't count as a viewable ad. Viewability is a very big indicator that's very important to brand focused campaigns, as well as larger advertisers who aren't trying to drive an actual transaction. It's a proxy for quality of impressions that were delivered. So yes, this is a measure that's good. We got our lat long and our normalized index here. So for these measures, let's go ahead and, one thing I didn't show you in the previous class, so I'm not trying to overload you with too much, but we can change the default formatting options for these. So for sales, let's go ahead and make this so that this always shows up as dollar values. To do that, we're going to right click on sales, go to default properties, and select, or actually first, I'm going to show you when we bring in sales here, and let's just look at the raw number, 854,000. What we can do now is, instead of having to change the format every time we use this field, so we can just change the actual properties of this data type by going on right-clicking in it, going to default properties and number format. And to do that, we just go to currency custom, usually best practice to remove the pennies from the fields, and hit OK. Now, anytime we bring in sales, it'll default to a dollar value. Let's do the same thing for viewability. Viewability is always expressed as a percentage. So we're going to go ahead and right-click, change data type, or right-click and go to default properties, number format. We're going to change this to a percentage, like that. Cool. Let's do a quick test. I'm going to remove sales, click on viewability. It's summing it right now, which we don't want, but let's just do a quick spot check and look at flight name. Okay, I just converted this to a pivot table. It's still, so the reason why we're getting thousands here is because we're summing the viewability across each of these flights. What we want to look at is the median viewability. Just a refresher from basic stats, median will adjust for outliers. So if we use the average here, we'll get 44.6, yeah, 44 to 46%. If there are any outliers, this will be skewed. That's why we use the median. And looks like it changed a little bit. The upper band of this threshold moved from 46 to 49%. But more or less, that's good. Okay, cool. So let's go clear all this and let's start building. All right, first of all, let's go ahead and just build a time series of sales driven by each month. So let's go ahead and we brought in sales. Let's aggregate sales, bring conversion date. It's defaulting to aggregate to the year level. So we're going to go ahead and disaggregate this down to the month. So we can take a look. Oh, it's also 1 month of sales, so October 2016. So let's go ahead and bring it down to the day level. So we've got a breakout of sales day over day over the course of October. We have this one null value. Let's just go ahead and hide this by right-clicking and selecting hide. Okay, so we have this time series. What's really common that you'll see in display advertising campaigns is towards the end of the month, you'll typically underspend in the beginning of the month, particularly for like lookalike campaigns where you're going after a specific demographic target to drive some type of performance indicator like a sale. And usually what you do is you'll throttle your ad spend in the beginning weeks of the campaign to build a large enough sample size of how many cookies are actually converting based on your model. And then what you'll see is usually in the last week, sometimes 2 weeks, you'll see a ramp up of ad spend based on how well the model's been trained and how much you trust the model and based on its preceding performance. And then you'll see a ramp up here. So ad spend in this case would be correlated to, or rather, sales would be correlated to ad spend in this case. So that's what this data is telling us here. These early weeks here are the training of the model and training of the algorithm. And then you're optimizing the model here at the end and doubling down effectively. All right, so to make this a little bit more useful, we're going to go ahead and segment this out by campaign. There should be only 2 campaigns in this data set. Yeah. So we've got campaign up here, client A, October 2016. Down here, we've got client A, October 2016, retargeting. So what this tells me, this blue line is a prospecting campaign. It's top of funnel. It's largely what's kind of feeding the lookalike model to basically reach out and touch as many people within a relatively broad segment of the population. And then down here is the retargeting campaign that goes after folks who've been touched once. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some filters. We're going to do that now by taking device to see if there's any change in performance based across the device type. Desktop will most always be, unless it's a mobile specific campaign, desktop will always be the highest volume in most cases in the display world. So we're going to select all, hit OK, right click on filters, show filter, right click on click on this drop down, and I'm going to make this a radio button. So we've got desktop, mobile, so let's take a look at that. Desktop, we were looking at tens of thousands of dollars in sales being driven. Mobile is a little under $2,000 a day at the peaks. And then tablet's going to be even smaller. We're looking at $1,400 on its best day. Okay, great. So we're also going to apply this to all worksheets. Let's make sure filters are clear. We're using all. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and call this campaign performance. Okay, or trended campaign performance. Go ahead and create a new worksheet. Now let's go ahead and build a state level map. Go ahead and bring in conversion state. Okay, we've got a plot for every state with a record within our data set. We're going to go ahead and color this by sales. And then go to show me, default it to a bubble map. We want a heat map. Click this filled heat map here. That's good. Now we've been using the defaults color settings for Tableau. I'm going to show you how to adjust this. Click on the color tile here. Go to edit colors. And let's make this green this time. But you've got a whole slew of different palettes you can choose from. So we're going to stick with green, hit apply, OK. California, Texas, Illinois, and New York are the states driving the most revenue on this specific campaign. Okay. Next, we can go ahead and let me actually see. Yeah, that's just a unique identifier. Oh, we already have a device filter on the previous one. All right, let's go ahead and call this heat map and create a new worksheet. All right, next, let's go ahead and take a look at creative name. Bring creative name in. So we've got several different creative names here. These are the actual file names of the assets or creatives that populate when the ad renders. So this is a defined nomenclature that designers will work with after they build an ad. So what you'll see is the October month for the campaign, the ID, which is usually a string of unique identifiers, but I replaced that with just the word ID. Classic casual fit is a description of the specific product. CTA is a call to action. And that's usually denoted if this ad has a call to, or this specific creative has a call to action, like click here to save 10% off, or buy now, things like that. And then 300 by 250, 160 by 600, these are all pixel dimensions. It's just descriptive of the creative itself. V2, probably this is multiple iterations of this campaign has gone out, file format, and then the unique identifier following it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sales here. Make this a horizontal bar chart. Sort descending. Close this. Let's give this a little bit more space. Let's give this a little bit more space so we can see a little bit more about the creative side. Okay. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to color by the median viewability. So we're going to take viewability, drop it on color, change the calculation to median. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove this as well. Give us a little bit more space. Then let's go ahead and add a label for the median viewability. So take viewability, drop it on label, change the calculation to median, and now we can see what the median viewability is when we hover over it. Actually, that's a little counterintuitive because our axis maps to revenue, but our labels are showing viewability. We'll just leave viewability as a field within the tooltip here. So let's go ahead and take median viewability off and bring sales onto the label. That will be more intuitive here. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead and change up the color scheme as well. Click on the top color tile, and I'm going to go ahead and go with go ahead and don't feel obligated to do what I do. Feel free to play around with your color palettes. I'm going to go ahead and hit gray and see what that looks like. Okay, not a huge amount of variance here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on stepped color, change this to 10. What this does is it increases or it decreases the steps within the gradient so you can get more variance between the colors. Let's see what that does. Makes it a little bit more, but gray doesn't look like a good color for this. So let's try blue teal instead. Okay, that's hurting my eyes. I'm gonna go with orange. That really hurts my eyes. Let's try blue light. Nope. Let's reduce the color steps as well then. Okay, I don't really like that either. I'm just going to go back to blue teal. All right, now let's create a filter on here to make this a top 10. We've got quite a few creatives. So we're going to take creative name, drop it on filter, go to top, by field, top 10 by, we're going to change the logic here to sales, sum of sales. So we're telling Tableau to only show the top 10 creative names by sum of sales. So when we do this, it should drop down to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There we go. So these are our top 10 performing creative. So let's go ahead and call this creative performance. And then we're going to create another worksheet here. So go ahead and take that. And let's go ahead and bring in actually, let's go back to the heat map, and let's bring in conversion type as a filter. So we've got click and view conversions. A click conversion means someone clicked on the ad and then they made a purchase within the 30-day look back period of this campaign. A view conversion means they were exposed to ads or even multiple ads, but they never clicked on it. And so, they did make a purchase after being exposed to the ad. So those are the difference of those two conversion types. We're going to select both and then show filter. Great. Hit the drop down. Do apply to all related data sources. Hit the drop down one more time. And let's do a single value list again. So now we're filtering the United States by our click conversions and then view conversions. View conversions will generally bring in be the bulk of this as your conversions as well when you're delineating between the two. Next, let's go ahead and go to our blank sheet here. Let's do conversion DMA, and we'll do a top 10 of that. So there are many different DMAs within the U.S. We're going to filter down to the top 10. So drop conversion DMA onto the filter. Let's go back to top. Define the logic now here by field. So top 10 conversion DMAs. Right here. Oh, conversion event. Conversion DMA. And we're going to do a top 10 by, actually top 10, we're already on conversion DMA. So let's do sales, sum of sales. So this logic says we've brought in our conversion DMA. We want to see our top 10 conversion DMAs by total number of sales. So when we drop this down, okay, these are our top, it's filtered us now to 10 DMAs. Now we just got to bring in our metric, which is sales. And let's go ahead and make this a bar chart as well. Sort that by descending, and then roll color by sales as well. And let's make this guy green. Okay. Let's go ahead and call this top 10 DMAs. Now, the reason why we're going to do this is I want to integrate this in this bar chart into our heat map here. So go back to the heat map tab, and we're going to click on the tooltip. Let's click to the right of sales and hit enter to get a new space. I'm going to go ahead and hit it again. Go ahead and click on insert. We're going to insert the sheet called top 10 DMAs into the tooltip. Now we might have to mess with the pixel dimensions here, but let's just see what this does by default. So now when we hover over Texas, we've got one DMA in Texas. We got two DMAs within California. So it actually looks like the bulk of these conversions are coming from a single DMA actually. So that's not particularly useful. Let's go ahead and let's actually swap out the conversion DMA for, hit the wrong one, creative name, and then sort. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take conversion DMA off the filter shelf, and we're going to take creative name and drop it in. And then we're going to do the same logic. Define the logic is top 10 creative names by the sum of their sales. Okay. Now let's change this color palette because I just noticed the heat map's green as well. We're going to make that, let's see what orange looks like. Nah, that's not good either. We'll go back to blue. That's fine. All right, cool. Let's go back to our heat map. Now we've got we're able to see the top converting creatives within each state. We're going to change, so you can see how this bar chart is getting truncated a bit. We're going to change the dimensions by clicking on tooltip. Right here we can define the parameters of our width. So we've got height is defined as 300 and our width is also 300 pixels. That's going to give us a boxy tooltip. So we're going to go ahead and let's do 900 on the width. We're going to do 3x the width. Now when we hover over here, we get a more interesting view. Great. Cool. Now let's create one more worksheet, and we're going to go ahead and create, let's bring in viewability. This is going to be a simple time series. So we're bringing in viewability, change the calculation to median, and then we're going to bring in the conversion date as well. Let's disaggregate this down to the day level. So it looks like actually viewability has been trending pretty well. You don't want to over throttle your viewability threshold by shooting for 100% viewability because performance will suffer because not all ads will be 100% viewable. Industry standard, typically you want to look at like 35 to 60%, somewhere within that, depending on the campaign. a few other variables that go into determining your viewability thresholds, but there's a fine balance between optimizing for viewability and optimizing for performance. And so this looks like the viewability threshold is going to be around 45%. That is what they've been going for. So let's go ahead and take this and let's go ahead and size it by the median viewability as well. Change our calculation. Oh, that's a little. Oh, there's only 10. Yeah, 10 plus or minus 10% variance here. So sizing it won't make sense. So we're going to take this and drop it on color instead, and we'll get a nice color gradient. So let's go ahead and call this median view, or let's call it viewability, or trended viewability. Okay, great. Now let's go ahead over here. Let's test this out. I want to try and embed two visualizations into this. We'll go ahead and put a break, two breaks here, and I want to put the viewability trend on top of the bar chart. So we're going to have to change the dimensions, I believe. We're going to go to Insert, Trended Viewability. Let's just see what it does here. Okay. So our trended viewability is getting squashed up because it's using that 300 by 300 pixel dimension, whereas our creative name is using that 900 by 300. So we're going to go ahead and go to Tooltip, and I'm going to actually lower this to 600 pixels, and we're going to do the same for the width on our trended viewability. So 600 by 300. Okay. Still a little big. Actually, yeah, that's fine. This will work. It just looks scrunched up on my laptop. All right. So go ahead and create a dashboard here. Change this to, click on size, change from range to automatic, so it'll automatically scale based on the screen that you're using. We can go ahead and bring in trended campaign as our first view. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this legend here because the campaign legend we can see when we hover. We'll go ahead and bring in the heat map to the right hemisphere. Create a performance, we're going to bring down to the bottom hemisphere. And we've got top 10 DMAs as well as, wait, actually we got to change the title of that to top 10 creatives, because we have trended viewability and top 10 creatives have both been integrated into the heat map. So we're going to go to the dashboard. Now, we'll remove the sales legend, select this container, and we're going to resize by dragging it over here. Let's resize this. Okay, great. Click in the white space for creative performance. We're going to fit this to the entire view. Let's do the same for our heat map and our time series. It actually did it by default. And I don't believe we can do that. Oh yeah, because you use zoom on this one. So now we can take a look at our campaign's performance at mobile, tablet, and desktop. And it defaults to all. On top of that, we can take a look at mobile, view conversions only, or click conversions. Looks like there are actually no mobile click conversions, which makes sense. You're not going to click directly on a display ad and enter your shipping information and contact information on your phone usually. And then let's take a look at view conversions across desktop, and that's going to be the bulk of our campaign's performance as well. Okay, now let's take a look at California. Click on California. Oh yeah, we need to enact our dynamic filters. So select that funnel here. Click on the white for our time series and activate the funnel. Click on the white for our bar chart and activate the funnel. Now let's go ahead and let's filter on Urban Contemporary Black call to action. There we go. Now everything's filtering. Let's clear our filters. All right, just doing a quick function check to make sure everything's working. All right, now let's go ahead and hit this. All right, looks like we're in business. Great. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and publish this. So go to File, Save to Tableau Public As. I'm going to call it MKT 188 Workshop 3. Full funnel analysis. Hit save. We should be good to go. Okay. It's compressing. Great. And we've got our dashboard built. Let's test our functionality. Great. We got our tooltip visualizations. Our active dynamic filtering is active. And our drop-down filters are active as well. Great. So this is going to be the last data set that we use within the ad tech world. If you want to play around and do something more and drill into something you find interesting here, feel free to do that. I'm just showing you one way to approach this data set to analyze the data and find some meaningful information. There's no wrong answers. Really just want to drill into everyone's, help build everyone's muscle memory on how to build things within Tableau. And then we'll be changing things up in week 4 with a new data set. So stay tuned. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Happy to help. Thanks so much. Bye.